Hello, Tracy and the GentleBirth team. My name is Shanna Switzer, and I am in Eagle River, Alaska, where it is a chilly 10 below zero this early morning. That's Fahrenheit, so it's cold, but I'm in my warm, cozy office. So I am going to do my 10-minute video on pharmaceutical pain management in labor. So in Anchorage, Alaska, where and in the Mat-Su, there are generally two kinds of pharmaceutical pain management that are offered in hospitals. Those include IV analgesia, which is Stadol or fentanyl, typically, or an epidural, which is placed in your back through a catheter. There's also nitrous oxide, but that's only offered at one hospital in our area, so I'll talk about that at the end. Stadol and fentanyl are administered through an IV, and they offer, they're fast-acting. The dose can be repeated. Typically, the first dose is the more effective dose, lasting a couple of hours, and the second dose lasts about an hour. It doesn't limit the laboring mom's mobility. She can still move just as much as before, and it tends to just take the edge off of labor contractions. Fentanyl and Stadol should not be administered, or typically will not be administered, within about an hour of baby's delivery. So if it's presumed that mom is going to deliver soon, they don't want to offer Stadol because it can depress the baby's breathing rate, respiration after birth, and make them a little bit slow to take spontaneous breath. And it also fentanyl can affect the baby's upper palate. So there are some risks. The disadvantages are it can make mom drowsy and a little less aware of her surroundings. It does require IV access, so if she didn't have an IV before, she would be required to have one placed in order to get the Stadol or the fentanyl. And mom needs to be monitored pretty closely for about a half hour after either of those are administered. It does allow mom to rest, but she won't, she'll still have sensation. She'll still be able to feel her labor. It just, like I said, takes the edge off. It's rapidly metabolized, and it, when it wears off, it's pretty much gone. So, as far as epidural can be, it dulls sensation, removes sensation pretty much from the chest down. It's administered via a catheter in the spinal, the spinal epidural space in the mom's back. It requires continuous monitoring. If a mom chooses to have an epidural, she will need to have an IV bolus of fluid prior. And it's started by having a shot of numbing medication in the back, and then a bolus test dose to see that it's working. And usually within 15 to 30 minutes, mom experiences a numbing sensation and doesn't feel the pain of her contractions, but more, she might feel just the pressure of them coming and going. The risks of an epidural include blood pressure. It can lower mom's blood pressure, and it can slow contractions, which could lead to potentially needing to be augmented with Pitocin, synthetic oxytocin. It can cause fetal distress, that blood pressure drop. It can also, very rare, but infection at the epidural placement site. It can cause an increased risk of cesarean because mom no longer has sensation and can't move as well. It can cause, after the epidural, after the birth, it can cause backache and spinal headache. Rare, less than 2%, but it can cause a pretty significant headache in some moms. The advantages are mom remains awake and alert. She can typically rest. It takes away the sensation of the contraction, so she's able to sleep if mom's had a long labor, or in the event of a poorly positioned occipital posterior baby, it can be really beneficial. If mom has had prodromal labor for a long time and just hasn't gotten much sleep, there are cases where an epidural can really be a useful tool for labor. If a cesarean is needed, an epidural would be placed, and it would be dosed up so that mom has even less sensation. She'll be totally numb for the cesarean. Sometimes people talk about walking epidurals. That isn't true. There's not a walking epidural, at least those aren't used in our area. You do have some control over the dose. Typically with an epidural, you're given a button where you can press and bolus yourself, give yourself an extra dose. And mom can ask to have the epidural medication lowered for pushing, or if she just wants to take the edge off, the anesthesiologist can control how much epidural medication she gets. So mom is usually placed sitting up in bed, and she is on the edge of the bed with a support person in front of her. She will have to bend as far forward as she can with that little baby in the way, and hold really still while the anesthesiologist does what he needs to do back there as far as getting the space numb and then inserting the needle, which is then removed, and a little plastic catheter is left in place for the medication to flow through. She will be monitored very carefully. She will have to have IV fluid. The IV will be, she'll also have a catheter placed because she doesn't have sensation to be able to urinate, and she can't get to the bathroom, so catheter will be placed for that. There will be an oxygen sensor placed to make sure that nothing is going wrong there, blood pressure monitor, because that's of most concern when an epidural is placed, and then continuous electronic fetal monitoring. So baby will be monitored continuously with the straps on mom's belly for both the pressure, the pressure of the contractions and baby's heart rate. So typically with an epidural in our area, you're confined to the bed, and it would be really important to keep moving side to side every half hour or hour or so to just keep that pelvis open and help encourage the baby to keep going down even while mom is resting. So mom needs to keep rotating, and also she'll want to pay attention to her body to see that the medication isn't getting collected just on one side, or that if she's gaining sensation back, she'll want to turn to the other side to keep that evenly distributed. In one of our local hospitals, nitrous oxide is an option, which is laughing gas, same kind of thing that you would use or have seen or heard of at the dentist's office. It's only available at that one hospital. It used to be available in the birth centers, but now it's illegal. So nitrous oxide is administered by the laboring woman. She holds up a mask to her face, and she's the only one who can administer it. She breathes in as the contraction begins and breathes out through the mask. So it's nice, deep, slow breaths in. Nitrous is, it just takes the edge off. Same kind of thing as the analgesic, but it is self-administered. It's fast-acting, and as soon as you remove it, it stops. The benefit goes away. Very low risk to the baby. You can use it all the way through labor. A downside to it is that you are, in our area at least, it's connected to the wall, so you are limited in terms of how far you can go away from the administration of that. So you wouldn't be able to use it in the tub. You could use it sitting on a birth ball or in the bed or standing, and you have about 6 feet of range with which to go for that. And as far as pharmaceutical medication in labor, I think that's it. So thanks for listening.